Hi, I'm Tara Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment here with my co host Manny for the Geek Saga show series, The Media That Made Us. This series focuses on media that the two of us consumed in our younger or maybe even just slightly younger years, media that helped shape our current interests and that we still love.
So I'm Manny, and for our 14th Media That Made Us episode, we're continuing our coverage of the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy with our discussion of The Two Towers, the extended edition, based of course on J.R.R. Tolkien's classic work and produced and directed by Peter Jackson.
Before we get started, just a heads up that you can follow me and therefore all of the Geek Saga endeavors at A Geek Saga on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Manissimo Art.
Just a couple other house cleaning items before we dig in. If you're watching this as a webcast on Facebook or YouTube, pretty please make sure to hit those like and or subscribe buttons. And if you're catching the audio only version on your favorite podcatcher, we could really use some more ratings, especially on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and would super very much greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to mark the Geek Saga podcast 5 stars wherever you're listening. Last but hopefully not least, we hope that you'll check out the Geek Saga Entertainment Patreon. We have a lot of tiers with just $3 per month, getting you the most prevalent perk of early access to podcast episodes. Check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
Our format for this Media That Made Us series includes our top 5 moments that made it. Basically, our hot takes from the portion of the series we're covering, followed by any insights we've uncovered from rewatches and or being longtime fans. And while we've made it known that one does not simply choose 5 top moments from these movies, we did once again, beginning with I am Gandalf the White. I come back to you now at the turn of the tide. Because Gandalf is back from not exactly dead and everything about how he does great from the beginning to end. Yeah, this movie did a really good job with a lot of these things that happened in the background when nobody was looking at them. And one of my absolute favorites from the entire series, even though it's not very long, is the battle between Gandalf and Balrog. It was just so great because how does a little tiny person fight this huge demon creature, which was great, dude. And you see him with the lightning sword, like he pulls out his sword and it gets, the lightning hits it and then he like stabs the Balrog and all this stuff. Hands down, I mean, that was just some of the coolest things. And when he just like finally kills it and then he's just laying down on the mountain and he's just dying. I mean, Gandalf is just dying at this point of just exhaustion. He's older, so he's like, you know what, I'm tired. My job is done here. I'm just going to pass away now. But how beautiful was that scene? They just did such a great job. I mean, okay, this whole movie in this thing just did a great job with any type of epic battle kind of stuff.
Yeah, and this one is short, but we also do get to see it in 2 pieces, right? Because the movie opens with part of the battle. And then later on, when he actually shows his face again, he's telling Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas about it. And you see more of it as he's telling the story. So it's split up, but yeah, it's really good. And it's a very epic beginning to the movie just because like y'all thought he was dead. If you've read the books, you didn't. But maybe the first time somebody ever experienced this media was seeing these movies and they really did think he was dead.
Exactly.
We do get a glimpse of him when Treebeard brings Merry and Pippin to him, but Treebeard refers to him as the White Wizard, and Merry and Pippin are like, "Oh, Saruman, uh-oh." And you only see the character from the back. And again, of course, yes, I know if you've read the books, you already know, but I think it's important to point out that at that point, like if somebody has never read them, then they might just see the wizard from the back and be like, uh-oh, this isn't good. When we do finally see Gandalf's face again, it is so fucking epic. I can't remember which one says it out of Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. It's either Aragorn or Legolas. They say the White Wizard approaches, and one of them says, "Don't let him speak. He'll put a spell on us." And they go all badass with their weapons, like the axe and the bow. Aragorn's got a sword in his hand, and Gandalf is just way more badass, of course.
Tink.
Case gets them to toss all of their weapons aside. It's so great. The blinding light, and then they see who it actually is. And, oh my God, sorry, thought you were Saruman. And Gandalf explains, I am Saruman, but, really like Saruman as he should have been. This is where he tells the rest of that story, the conclusion of that opening fight from the movie between him and the Balrog. And it's such a fucking great scene. They went all out with showing him show back up.
No, they did. It was great. And I loved his whole narration when he's explaining what happened, He's like, until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside. I'm just like, fucking yes. Okay.
Yeah, and he doesn't even really, it really shows that maybe he didn't like totally die, but he doesn't quite remember that he was Gandalf the Grey. He has to be reminded of that. And he's like, oh yeah, that was me once. Chuff's chin. I'm so much stronger and cooler now. But plus, we also get Shadowfax. Like the horse girl in me just rejoices. I honestly just wish we could get more of Shadowfax. I want a story about Shadowfax's beginnings. I bet you there's a fucking fanfic for it on fanfiction.net or AO3.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go looking for that at some point because I want to know what being the Lord of Horses really means.
Yep.
Was it one of our friends posted a meme that was like just full of puns about what it means to be the Lord of Horses, like reining things in, unbridled, something. I was dying about that. But I want like a full fanfic on what being the Lord of Horses really means. 10-year-old me would have eaten that shit up. But
That's
alas,
funny.
10-year-old me was pre-internet, let alone pre-fanfic.net or It's so great to see him come back. When you first saw these movies, did you actually think Gandalf had died? Had you been spoiled for any of this? And I put spoiled, I say that sarcastically, facetiously, maybe, because like you can't really be spoiled for a book that when these movies came out was already like 60 something years old. So
yeah. So what ruined it for me was the fact that I would always go on the Internet Movie Database just to see like what movies are coming out and stuff. So when I saw it on there and I saw his picture on there, I'm like, oh, it's probably a flashback. I did think he was dead. But then I saw that they had called him Gandalf the White in it. And I was like, oh, okay. So he's something different in this one, So I remember seeing that and being like, all right, well, he's not dead.
Not dead. Not totally dead. Not 100% dead. Just mostly
not
dead.
100% dead. Mostly dead.
Okay. Number 2 for our top moments is the ring works hard now to find its way back to the hands of men. That's right. We have to talk about Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol/Gollum getting captured by Faramir, which Galadriel knows. And she also knows, from afar, she's got her bowl of sight. I can't remember what it's basically like a Palantir, but Galadriel knows this. And she also knows that Faramir, all he has to do is like take the ring and this whole world will end as they know it. And she's talking about how the ring is close to achieving its goal. It's really interesting because you've already seen them getting captured happens before Galadriel goes into this like exposition thing. But I love the Galadriel exposition and how it cuts to Faramir marching them. Because at this point, he'd already been refusing over and over again to let them go, despite all of Frodo's pleas. He takes them all the way to Osgiliath, and they end up having this showdown with the Nazgul, which, by the way, like that scene where Frodo's standing on the battlements and the Nazgul on its creature, I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head right now, like rises up. It's like slow-mo, giant wings flapping. It's so fucking great. Frodo's so small, and he's just standing there, and he's going to put the ring on his finger, and Sam stops him. The idea that so much of the timing of how everything happens going forward would have been so different, not happened the way it happened because Faramir kept Frodo for so long, I think is important to point out. Wouldn't have gotten that cool / scary-ish showdown with the Nazgul and Osgiliath if he hadn't kept them for so long. But then Faramir does finally realize, like, oops, probably shouldn't have done that in terms of capturing them. And he finally releases them, even though one of his men is like, dude, if you do this, your life is forfeit. But Faramir has resigned himself to that. And he sends Frodo and Sam and Gollum, Smeagol on their way.
It's wild, because he just wanted love from his dad. He was like the black sheep of the family, and that's all he wanted. So you kind of understand his character. They did a good job at that, where you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. I don't know.
Yeah, you understand why he's doing it, but my God, it's fucking frustrating while it's happening. It's like, it's understandable, but it's fucking frustrating.
Well, it's almost worse because it's so petty. It's like, dude, you're doing this for like the love of your dad. Like, you're not even trying to do it to like save king and country at this point, right? You just want approval from your father. And it's like, dude, just, buy him something, like, get him a picture frame or something, or like
it probably doesn't help that Frodo says for his part he was friends with Boromir and he didn't know he was dead. And Faramir also doesn't trust that, which is understandable. All he knows is that his brother's dead. He doesn't know how it happened or whatever. And now this hobbit, this creature essentially in his mind that he's never
Hmm.
seen before, showing up with a ring and a creepy little golem scuttling around after them, wriggling around after them. And so it's understandable to an extent, but my God, so fucking frustrating that he just won't let them go. And on top of that, this whole situation is really important in how much it totally, truly fucks with Gollum, Smeagol. Because earlier on, we see Gollum being Gollum, even after he's kind of joined up
Hmm.
with Frodo and Sam. And then Smeagol understands a little bit that Frodo isn't bad and maybe he could really be helping them and trust, if not Sam, then Frodo. And Smeagol banishes that Gollum side of him. And it actually works for a while. Like he is just so jubilant when he dismisses that bad side of himself. And right after that, he even brings Frodo rabbits for breakfast. And he's mad at
Hmm.
Sam for cooking them, which is just its own little hilarious side scene. Sam is also telling Smeagol, like, even you can't say no to some nice fried fish. And Smeagol's like, oh, yes, I could. Give them to us raw and wriggling. I had to say something about that only because in our last episode, we were talking about rating Gollum's actions on a scale of wriggly fish. But then, of course, Frodo has to trick Smeagol, just to get back to what we're talking about, the Faramir capture. He has to trick Smeagol into getting captured by Faramir's men because otherwise they're going to kill him. And even though we know that Frodo did this to prevent them from harming Smeagol, and Sam reiterates this to Smeagol Gollum after the fact, by then Gollum has already wriggled his rotten fishy self back into Smeagol's mind. And
Hmm.
the fact that how long Faramir keeps them kind of adds to the timing of how things happen. Literally all of Return of the King, the fight that Faramir is having with himself about keeping Frodo or letting him go. And then, of course, the fact that for a minute you can see that maybe Smeagol could actually be a help to them despite his obsession with the ring. And then it all
Yeah.
gets thrown in the trash because what Frodo has to do to keep him from getting harmed by Faramir and his men. It's very
Hmm.
sad, honestly.
It is sad. Yeah.
It's sad for all of them. It's sad for Faramir because we know he's going to catch a whole lot of shit for letting them go. It's sad for
Yep.
Frodo and Sam and, for just being stressed as fuck by being captured and these men just not listening to them. And of course,
Hmm.
it's sad for Smeagol, who has been retaken by evil, really fishy, rotten Gollum.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's up next?
Number 3, you would not part an old man from his walking stick. He's like, look at me, I'm old and infirmal. What would I do? I'm a
They all
wizard.
know who he is, dude. And yet,
Yeah, and I like how he just looks over and kind of winks at the others, like they thought I was an old man.
yeah, it's so easy for Gandalf to just trick Theoden's guard into
Well,
letting
of
him
course.
into I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but it's the Great Hall of Rohan, Meduseld. I think it's Meduseld or something along those lines.
Medusa.
But anyway, so yeah,
Mhm.
Wormtongue's like, what the fuck, guys? Told you to take his staff.
Yeah, like he was so disappointed at that moment. He was like, "Oh, guys, come on! I told you to get his staff." Oh man, no,
Yeah,
but it was funny his reaction to it.
they were trying to be nice to this old man.
It's like, what are you talking about? He's just an old man, He just wanted to come by, And it's like, nope. Gandalf just like unrobes, like, whoosh, with his
Yeah.
fucking wizard staff. No, but it was good because he was able to get in there. He tricks them, and
Yeah.
it's able to free Theoden from Wormtongue and Saruman's spell.
Womp womp.
So, womp womp. Literally, it was just Jesus Christ returning to exorcise the demons. And I love how technical it was, almost in a sense, because you would think Gandalf, when I go to a party and I take the jacket off real quick, everybody knows it means a business and that's it. This stuff is happening now. Okay. But the way he was like kind of talking and kind of telling this thing to get away from him, and he's in front of him and he's got the staff, thing is still fighting, and he puts both of his hands on his staff and he's like holding it right in front of his face. And then finally Saruman just like freaks out and you can tell kind of charges him and he just like baps him back.
Yeah.
And I loved the and I loved the transition, right? Because he hits him and then it goes to Saruman flying backwards. And I was like, oh, damn, that was awesome.
Yeah, I will say the makeup on Theoden when he's under Wormtongue's spell is something else, to be
Hmm.
quite honest. I can't tell if I love it or hate it. I don't know that the close-ups, especially in the moment where he's arguing with Gandalf with
Hmm.
Sauron's words, I don't know if they really do the makeup justice because I know that it and he's supposed to look grody.
Hmm.
But to me, it almost looks like a not great makeup job type of grody. Like it's like, girl, you put too much cakey powder on your face, okay?
They've been out all day in the sun. They're like, I think I need
Yeah.
to redo my makeup.
Again, I'm really glad to see that he goes back to normal straight away. And
Hmm.
I know he's supposed to look gross. And I don't know that I really, really noticed it when I was rewatching because I watched the movie twice within the past week. And when I was rewatching it, I was doing it on my computer. So I'm much closer to the screen
Hmm.
also. And the close-ups again, they like add to that, like, ooh, girl, you need to go to Sephora and get a makeup test done. But yeah, I'm glad he goes back to normal straight away. And also, ha ha ha, fuck you, Wormtongue. Like he's begging to not be sent away. Why even bother at this point, my dude? What do you think is
Yeah,
gonna
for real.
happen? Although I will say, Aragorn, though, with this enough blood has been spilt on his account nonsense, they should not have let him go, right?
No, they absolutely should not have. I'd have been like, there's been so much blood spilled on this day. We can do one more. And then let's take a break, guys. Let's get rid of him and then we'll call it a day.
And also, I feel like this is Rowan. This is Theoden's kingdom. He's the one
Hmm.
that has been abused by this motherfucker. Let him have his justice. Because that's what it
Yeah.
would be, is justice. It's
Yep.
very much deserved. Not only for what he did to Theoden, what he's been doing to Theoden, but he's been creeping on fucking Eowyn this whole time too. My girl.
Hmm. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah,
God,
for
I love
real.
her so much. I love her so much.
But that whole scene was like awesome. You know what was really touching that I forgot to put in here?
Hmm.
Was when he had to bury his kid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was heart wrenching. Like that still made me want to cry watching it. Because it's like
Again,
this is
pretty
such
much Wormtongue's fault, Saruman and Wormtongue's
Wormtongue's
fault.
fault, exactly, you know, and he's just this very manly, kingly man, and he's just breaking down because of his kid. I was like, dude, that's fucking gut wrenching. Made me want to cry.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh. Now I'm getting all emotional thinking about it. Okay. Number 4 in our top moments. There is no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tongues of men for this treachery.
Yes.
AKA, the Ents are fucking finally going to war. Oh
Don't
my
fuck with the
gosh.
forest, man.
But also, poor Merry and Pippin, they've been trying so hard. They've lost their patience. They had to sit through that Entmoot only to hear, like, nah, it's not our fight. Then it becomes their fight finally. But as much as it's just fucking
Yeah,
chills.
absolutely.
Chills when Treebeard says those words. And this is, by the way, in response to finally seeing how Saruman has burned huge swaths of Fangorn forest. And Treebeard is like, those trees were my friends. And it's like, trees were your friends.
So sad.
I'm like, I'm tearing up a little bit right now just thinking about it again. Oh my God, stop, Tara. But he discovers this destruction and then he does his big, like, call. And you see one section of the forest just kind of pushing forward. The
Yep.
whole fucking forest is pushing forward. It's crazy. And
Yep.
then on his side, the Ents just start rushing out of the forest from behind him. And I fucking love everything. Treebeard with Merry and Pippin on either shoulder, such as they are. All these Ents just march on Isengard. And I fucking love everything about this. The Ents throwing their giant boulders while Merry and Pippin, by the way, are taking out orcs with perfectly aimed rocks.
This Pippin man doing his thing, dude. He's like, come on, man. I know how to do this.
And then they break the dam and how when the water rushes in, the Ents stand firm and the orcs are just washed away like the little bitches they are.
Yep.
And that one Ent that is on fire, it's like head or hair. Let's call it its hair because that's kind of what it is. It's on fire. He bends so that the water put him out. I'm getting chills over and over again with every fucking thing I say about this.
But like, I love that there was a space of time, right? Because they show that Ent getting hit with the arrows and you don't see him for another 3 or 4 minutes. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the battle, you see it coming like, oh, it survived. Oh, great. That's good. I'm happy for that.
I love this comment. I don't get the logic in picking a fight with the things we run from when they fall over.
Exactly.
If a tree falls in the forest, is there an Ent there to hear it? I mean, in this case, apparently not for a long time. And it took Pippin coming through. We'll talk about that in a bit, trust, to get them to finally act. And also, again, this battle is poised alongside the scenes from our next top 5 moment. And they're both fucking epic. This one is a lot shorter. Like you said, Saruman just like panicked.
He's just panicking. He's just like looking over his balcony like, oh my God, I think it's going to flood today. You got the Ents, they're like pulling at the dam. They're like, bring the water down. And all of his little places, his little furnaces that makes all the weapons and the weird demon orcs, is just getting filled up with water now. Just like, yeah, we're going to turn this bitch into an ocean.
Has Wormtongue gotten there yet? I can't remember if Wormtongue had gotten there at this point.
I think he was there, wasn't he?
He ends up back at Isengard, and I can't quite recall if he's there yet at this point, but either way, yes, you're right. It's like watching just some like awful person that I'm sorry, it's fucking karma. Watching some awful person see everything they've wanted or expected just crumble around them.
And he gets to like survive to like see it, right? Because they're not attacking him.
No.
I mean, let's face it, they weren't even attacking the tower either. It was just everything around it. Everything that killed the actual forest, the deforestation, the burning of the land, all this stuff. And they're just like, okay, we're just going to come back and fix what you just broke is what we're going to do.
And I loved it. And in the real world, my God.
Oh, I know. And I really loved it, when you got the 2 little hobbitses on the end and the big wave of water comes.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's like done where you can see the trees kind of holding it's like if you go into an ocean, a wave hits you, you have that same like posture. And it was so awesome. It was just done so well, man.
He's like, hold on, little hobbit.
Yes, hold on. Oh, it was so good.
We're here.
We made it, guys. We made it.
Not to the end of this webcast. We have so much more to talk about, but to our last top 5 moment, which is a whole fuck ton of moments rolled into one.
But this was the one that I think was the first one we mentioned when we even talked about doing this. We were still talking about the first one and we're like, oh, but for the second one, we have to do Let This Be the Hour when we draw swords together. Yes, dude, the Battle of Helm's Deep, man. Obviously, this is like what's good. It does the same thing as the Ent battle, right? Because there's like a series of things that are happening. It's not just like, oh, 2 people are fighting. At the Ents, you had this. Okay, we're going to do the dam. And now we're going to like attack these guys with rock. And then you have the Battle of Helm's Deep now. They're at the wall and now they're shooting. And the poor old man who couldn't hold the arrow and started the whole war, There's that one old man and he's like,
oopsies.
Oopsies.
It would have happened anyway, but
Yeah, it was going to happen anyway. It's just funny because I kind of see myself like that sometimes. I'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, man, I sneezed and I didn't mean to pull that trigger. I'm sorry. Also, that's no orc horn when you hear the horns and you see the arrival.
And this is after they've been fighting for a while and they're just like, fuck, we're screwed.
Yep. And they just walking in with their elven armor and all like, there was a time when man and elves fought together. We're here to fight together again. And it's like, dude, yes. That is literally getting into a fight and you're going to lose. And then your friends show up in another car and say, dude, I know we haven't spoken 8 months, man, but we're here to fight alongside you. You're like, yes, fucking yes.
Also too, like the horn blows is like, that is no orc horn. And then the elves they march in like unbothered in completely perfect rows.
Yeah.
Fucking love
it's like,
it.
All right, guys, we've been training for this the past 2 hours. We know how we're going to walk down together, 4x4. That's how big it is. Don't look at them. Don't wink. Don't say what's up. And no head nods. Be serious.
But also, so like the elves show up. Everything is like going a little bit better for a little while, but not for long. And it gets to a point where Theoden has just about given up. But Aragorn reminds him that they were supposed to look for Gandalf at first light on the 5th day. And Aiden is heartened. He agrees to continue fighting. He's like, now for wrath, now for ruin and a red dawn. And then Gimli blows that horn.
Dude, look, if there's any way I want to leave this existence, is like that. I want to hear that big ass horn and I want to put my helmet on with the fucking sword and just riding out and bashing goblins or whoever I need to bash. That's what I want to do.
Oh my God, so fucking amazing. And they rally a little bit, but the orcs, they're bashing down fucking doors and walls and stuff. But then you see him, get up.
The sun is rising.
Yeah.
And, and you see it come through and and you look at the hill.
It's rising on Gandalf, bitches.
Yep.
And you don't even know who he's talking to at this point because he's by himself. Talking about standing alone. He's like, the hidden king stands alone. It's very exposition-y. But then Amir, Theoden's nephew, shows up and he's like, not alone. No, hear him to the king. And my God, like, God damn, they just spill over the top of that hill.
And they're coming down. And as they're coming down, the sun is like moving, so you can see the sun rising. And as these dumbasses turn around, it's just light in their face. And there were some epic horse shots in there.
They have the high ground.
They're just like, I was like, dude.
Yeah, that flash at the bottom of the hill with the sun behind Gandalf and the Rohirrim blinding the orcs. It was fucking beautiful. It's fucking beautiful because they show it from a few different angles too. And it's like every angle is just like, you could not have done this better.
Yeah, exactly. This is the best. I like this.
And then they win the day. I know that some people who are very wrong, sorry, not sorry, think Return of the King is the best movie. Maybe it's because they are just like thinking it won all the awards. So obviously it was the best. Fuck the Oscars. Fuck Hollywood. This is the better movie. Is it Empire?
Well, see, because the thing is look, my thing is that I always like movies that haven't like an ending. I've always been more biased towards that. So everyone,
I like Return of the Jedi better than Empire.
Me too, exactly. I like Return of the Jedi. That was a fantastic movie. It was great. But with this one, I was like, look, Return of the King is great. Fellowship of the Ring is fantastic. But this one was just, I don't know. I wanted to make out with it. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to like take it out on like a nice date is what I wanted to do. Bring it home to my mom and make her watch all 4 hours of it.
And I think some of that too might be that even though this is the middle story, if you've read the books, and a lot of bad stuff happens, it still ends. Not for Frodo and Sam and Smeagol turned back to Gollum, but it still ends on a really high note. It doesn't end even like Empire ends, where they're all just like, ugh, gotta pick up the pieces. Like Han is gone.
Yep.
Luke got his hand cut off. Hoth has been taken. The rebellion is in tatters. Like, not to make that the only comparison, but I could compare it to other things, but I don't think I'm going to guess most people haven't read the Red Rising trilogy. I guess Hunger Games is maybe another comparison where it's like, okay, so Katniss lives through the second Hunger Games she was forced into, but also lots of people are dead. Peeta's been captured, I think, at that point, et cetera. It just, you can compare it to a million things. But at the end of the day, as much as things are still obviously dark because the ring hasn't been destroyed yet and Sauron still has so many forces at his command, they won the Battle of Helm's Deep. The Ents destroyed Isengard and its orc producing fire pit. However the fuck that mud and fire make orc.
Yep, but you're right. It's true. Each one of these movies has a really good kind of hopeful ending, even though the ending is kind of uncertain of the grand story. Because it is really sweet in Fellowship of the Ring with Sam catching up with Frodo. It's like, man, look at them. They're friendsy friends. And then even with Aragorn, who is like, I would have followed you until the end. You know what I'm saying? But do it. Go for it. And this one is the same thing. We all know what's going to happen next. There's one more movie after this one. So, but it still ends with this just kind of almost gentle touch where it does give you like a little glimmer of hope of like, wow, the story continues. The adventure continues. Clearly they're going to make it.
Well, some of them anyway. Yeah. R.I.P. Hal. I'll be honest, I could talk about the Battle of Helm's Deep for like an hour, but we don't have that amount of time. We have so many other things to go through. So
yeah, that could have been its own episode alone. Is that battle?
I'm sorry, we're not doing top 5 moments. We're doing top 5 moments and then an entire episode just on the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Just on the Battle of Helm's Deep, exactly.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, one thing that we are doing for each of our Lord of the Rings episodes is a section or some sections that are specific to this series. These might not remain the same across all 3 episodes. We're kind of deciding as we go along. So for Two Towers, though, our new topic for this next section, where we're kind of discussing more specific things, is Legolas and Gimli, enemies to lovers. I mean, friends. Again, to keep things on track, we figure it would be best to focus on the 3 moments or scenes that best showcase Legolas and Gimli's budding romance, I mean friendship. So what's our first one, Manny?
Legolas just encouraging Gimli when they're running after the Uruk-hai for Merry and Pippin, never picking on him for lagging behind. Just, come on, Gimli, we're gaining on them.
Seriously, I don't know that Gimli necessarily sees this as Legolas encouraging him.
No.
But he is, and I find it cute as fuck.
No.
They're running. Aragorn is like part elf from Back and Back, and Legolas is an elf, and Gimli is like, dwarves are made for sprinting, not long distance. I love how Legolas, he's being very encouraging, and it's cute.
Yeah.
The way things were for most of Fellowship was like, they were enemies, possibly more in Gimli's mind than Legolas's, honestly. But I think that was more because Legolas was like, I just don't care. Maybe he kind of was like, you're lesser than me, you're a dwarf.
As I was gonna say, it's like that.
And Gimli was more angry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's smug elf shit.
Elvish shit.
We've got some comments. Weirdest bromance ever. And for Legolas, this is encouraging. Yes, Jen, I agree.
You can do it, little guy.
Yeah, but he's not saying it like that either. He's just like, come on, dude, we're getting it done. Let's go.
Oh, man.
And I also, Jen says, you can see the relationship of the actors growing like along with their characters. And
yeah,
absolutely. I agree. Next up, and this is a very specific thing, when the riders of Rohan, the Rohirrim, surround Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, Éomer threatens Gimli. He says, I would cut off your head, dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground. And without hesitation, Legolas knocks an arrow and like tells Éomer, you would die before your stroke fell. Aragorn immediately jumps in and like pushes Legolas's bow down and tries to like tend the situation. But also, if none of you have rewatched this recently, if you're listening or watching this show and you have not watched this movie recently, please just go rewatch that scene ASAP, because the way Gimli looks at Legolas, it's just like heart eyes, motherfucker.
Yep.
If we were to rate these top 3 things on a scale of, I'm just going to say 1 to 3 heart eyes, motherfucker, I would give Legolas encouraging Gimli a 1 out of 3 heart eyes, motherfucker. I would give this a 3 out of 3 heart eyes, motherfucker. The next one is 2 out of 3 heart eyes, motherfucker. What is it, Manny?
The kill count, obviously. When the wolves attack on the road to Helm's Deep and Legolas takes an enemy out just as Gimli is about to claim it. One was mine. Oh man, I loved their stupid competition. Like who's got more kills.
Yeah, I mean, in the battle for Helm's Deep, Gimli's like, Legolas, 2 already. And Legolas was like, I'm on 17. He'll have no pointier outscoring me.
Yeah.
Right after that, Gimli plants his axe right in an orc's crotch, which is just hilarious.
Which is fantastic. It's like, that was all I could reach.
Right, right in the crotch. Yeah. To be fair, the orc was like on a ladder above the top of the battlement, but also, come on. And then Legolas announces his final count is 42, and Gimli's like, not bad for an elvish princeling, but I'm sitting pretty on 43. Now, first of all, do we trust that Gimli actually 43 to 42 sounds like a really specific?
Yeah, it's very specific. It just happened to be 1 number more than yours.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about that, Gimli.
And then Legolas just shoots the orc that Gimli is sitting on, and Gimli's like, he's like 43, and Gimli's like, nah, he was already dead, and Legolas like, oh, he's twitching, and Gimli, that's because my axe was in his nervous system. They're just so adorbs. This is the beginning of their, well, maybe I think the enemies to lovers thing started kind of at the end of Fellowship, but it really like came to fruition in this movie. And I know we're going to see more of it in Return of the King. So I'm sure that we will talk more about their enemies to lovers situation in our next episode. But
look, technically Legolas, he kind of gave the first rose, right? Because when that guy threatened to take off his head. Legolas wasted no time. Oh, yeah? Is that what you're going to do? Oh, I was like, okay, you guys like each other, or you like him for sure, and you didn't know how to say it. So now you're demonstrating it. I like that. That's good. That's good.
I love it. I love it. There's other funny stuff with Legolas and Gimli. Honorable mention. At one point, they have to retreat, and Legolas and like one other dude are dragging Gimli, literally kicking and screaming back to the keep. Gambling has called for a retreat, and Legolas and one other dude are just dragging Gimli, kicking and screaming back to the keep. And he's like, "What are you stopping for?" Blah.
He's just so lost in the heat of battle. You know?
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So in our fellowship episode, we only had one topic for this section, that being Merry and Pippin, pure chaos goblins. I mean, hobbits. And when it came down to it, we knew that we had to bring this back for Two Towers because once again, it was far too easy to come up with three. We could have come up with more, but it was way too easy to come up with 3 Two Towers specific Merry and Pippin chaos moments.
One of my personal favorites is their arguments over who's taller before and after drinking the Ent draft, because Merry was always taller and he refuses to believe Pippin could be, which also leads them to drinking way more of the Ent draft than Treebeard wanted them to, of course.
Even at the end, well, not at the end of the movie, but at the end of the battle for Isengard. Yeah, Merry's like, the world is back where it should be. And Pippin's like, what are you doing? The world is back where it should be. I'm taller than you. My God, I love these two. It's hard to say. I think at the end of this, we need to have like a who's the best couple?
Who's the best couple?
Broship or otherwise. Power couple, yeah. So next up is Pippin is like, maybe we should go back to the Shire because Treebeard is like, just go home, guys. Nothing else to do here. Ents aren't going to war. But Merry insists that there probably won't be a Shire soon. And it seems like it's like, oh, well, nothing's happening. Like nobody's listening to Merry here. But then very soon after that, Pippin claims that Treebeard should take them south so they can sneak out under Saruman's nose. But like, obviously, it's so that Treebeard will see the destruction Saruman has caused to the forest. This is their chaos, though. Pippin is like, I want to go home. And Merry's like, bitch, no, there won't be a home. And Pippin thinks about it for a little bit. And then he's like, how can I make this more chaotic? How can I make the Ents go chaotic? Really? Chaotic
nothing
good.
Is here. Yeah. We're just going to take this path over here. Just come on. We'll be there soon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Our third Merry and Pippin moment is
finding barrels of shireweed in Isengard and taking a whole barrel each because, of course, deciding not to share it with Treebeard because it's dead plant and all that.
Seriously. It's a silly fucking thing, but they're all high off battle, natural high off battle. They're tall as fuck because of the Ent draft. They're hungry, but they're like, oh, everything here is going to be rotten. And then the apples are just floating out and they're like, oh, wait a minute. Let's go check in here. And it's just barrels and barrels of fucking weed. Listen, we all know what it is, guys. We all know what it is. Yeah. If they get a barrel apiece, and these barrels are like at least a third the size of these hobbits.
Yeah, they're going to be smoking weed all day and all night, guaranteed.
And I'll be honest, I agree to not share it with Treebeard because it is dead, dried plant.
I mean, it is.
All right. This next bit, we originally, in our fellowship episode, we kind of tacked it onto the end of the episode, but it really goes here, which is the broship to end all broships. AKA Sam and Frodo stuff. When Frodo and Sam are with Faramir, just before Faramir lets them go, Frodo is just so despondent and he asks, what are we holding on to, Sam? And Sam says that there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. Honestly, how many times have we seen this posited as like a meme quote, etc., for current times? Just saying. But really, like Frodo doesn't think he can complete his mission, and let's be real, for good reason. But Sam, being Sam, this being the broship to end all broships, insists that not only does Frodo have to finish this, he can. He can. Or is it not only can he finish it, but he has to? I don't know. Either way, it's very just the absolute just like pushes that Sam constantly gives Frodo. Frodo never would have, we all know this, right? But Frodo never would have made it without Sam. And at the very end of Two Towers, Sam is wondering as they're walking along if people will tell stories about them someday. And he mainly means Frodo and the ring. And Frodo's like, I'd want to hear more about Sam because Frodo wouldn't have gotten far without him, and just crying on the hill.
This is the male camaraderie that all men want, but will never say out loud. Every man is looking for a Sam. Every single man on the planet. That's what they want.
Well, and I think that maybe I'm just lucky, but in recent years, I have, not even super recent, but I would say like in the past 10 years or so, I have been very lucky to have men in my life who are actually like this with each other, who are very supportive and loving. And, I'm not saying they would necessarily like physically cry on each other's shoulders, but I think more often than not, the people that I'm thinking about right now would. But also these movies came out, Two Towers was 22 years ago, plus a few months. It was December 2002. So yeah, back then I didn't know men like this really. And I'm super fucking glad I do now. And just to moving from our bro ship to end all bro ships into ring sites, because my first ring site is Sam and Frodo specific. This is about Frodo getting after Sam for calling Gollum names. Frodo's like, I want to help Gollum. And Sam is like, why? And honestly, let's be real. We get it. We get it a little bit. But Frodo says it's because he has to believe that Gollum can come back. And obviously he's talking about himself here too.
Yeah.
And like, as much as I love Sam and as much as he doesn't deserve Frodo snapping at him, which of course we know is the ring. Like the ring causes the snapping. Sam definitely does not get it. He never could, nor should he. We don't want Sam having the ring. We don't want two hobbits being ruined by this thing. It's interesting because it's like, it's not the same as like looking back at being like a high schooler, right? Especially a high school like femme person and having like kind of being on in a friend group where there's always one person that's still a little bit picked on. And granted, I know this is a stretch because Gollum kind of deserves it in some cases, especially early on in this movie and later. But I don't know. It's heartwarming to me that Frodo is really trying and really sticking up for him. And I understand why Sam is like, God, why? But I also really love how Frodo is like, because I don't want to be like him. I don't know. It's just, it's really good.
All right, so I got one to kind of counteract this. It's an unpopular opinion, dude, but honestly, I would have slayed Gollum at the start. The second he showed up and they started interacting with him, I would have just killed him right there. I just had a hard time finding any compassion for him. He really is a tortured soul, and I do feel bad for him, but it's one of those, like, let's put him out to pasture and allow him to, like, rest. Because he truly is like a tortured soul, and definitely somebody I would never have trusted, and definitely not someone that's like, I got to sleep at some point, and there's no way that if my bestie Frodo is going to be around, that I'm going to let this thing get anywhere near.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
I agree with that.
That is one of those things that I was like, I get Gollum, Smeagol, I understand that, but it's like, is there really a redemption for this person? Is there really? I don't know.
I think at this point, this scene that we're talking about, there could have been. I think later, no, but also that's more because of what they go through with Faramir and his men. Yeah, like you said, Gollum is a tortured soul. But I do agree. Like, yes, it would have been fucking easier to just get rid of him, but also they wouldn't have made it as far as they did without him.
That is true. I just wouldn't have trusted something like that around someone that I cared about.
No, of course not. Of course not.
That, or I would have kept him in chains every time I had to go to sleep, or something that I knew that my friend was going to be protected while I was sleeping.
All right. What's your first ring site, Manny?
Not my ring site. It's just things that I like. Okay.
So ring sites. We're calling them ring sites. So that's what they are. Deal with it.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines that I still say internally when I get really mad at somebody. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
This is one of those things that I almost included in the top 5, but we had just way too much, obviously, to go through. And it wasn't the line itself, but like the fact that this is said, and that's what leads to Merry and Pippin ending up like being able to escape. But yes, I yes. I agree. It's a great fucking line. It's so just
It's the
extra.
classic. Yeah, and it's so
Yeah.
quotable. Here I am quoting it like 22 years later. I'm still using it. Yeah, so it's that one, and then one of my favorites also is Gimli and Aragorn when they're sitting there hiding, and he's like, "Toss me." But don't tell the elf,
Yeah.
it's like grabs him and like fucking sauces him.
Really, like, I wanted to find a way to fit that into the Legolas and Gimli thing, but it doesn't
Yeah.
directly involve Legolas,
Yeah.
so I felt like it didn't fit, but I
Yeah.
agree. It's just such a fuck it, toss me. I can't make the jump.
Oh
All
man.
right, my next one, Osgiliath, the city of brotherly love. Fuck you, Philadelphia. It's Osgiliath. No, but really, I do love that in Faramir's flashbacks, we got to see this different side of Boromir, the side that is exhausted with his father and sticking up for his brother. And he even tries to refuse to go to Rivendell. And this isn't, it's almost a weird dichotomy. Like the Boromir that we saw at the council in Fellowship is not at all this Boromir. So is it literally just, and I'll be honest, it's been a few years since I've reread the books, and I've only read them a few times. So maybe I'm misremembering or whatever, something that happened in the middle that wasn't included in the movies, but it is a weird dichotomy. And I can only assume it's the presence of the ring that makes him like that, because in Osgiliath, in Faramir's flashbacks, Boromir, he did not want to go. He even suggested that Faramir be sent in his stead. Of course, their dad was like, fuck no, I'm not letting this loser go, which also, like, honestly, dude, I'm one of three. I have two younger sisters. My mother was, and I think my father to an extent, were both pitted against their siblings. So both of them were always really fucking great about how Tara's good at these things. My middle sister is good at these things. My youngest sister is good at these things. And we're not going to expect that middle sister can do what Tara does, or that younger sister can do what middle sister or Tara does. Like, my parents were really fucking good at that. So it's extra frustrating to me to watch this and be like, Faramir is totally fine. He's a totally fine dude. Boromir is standing up for him, loving him, wanting his brother to be the best person he can be. Boromir is not a bad brother. He's a fucking great brother. And their dad fucking ruins everything. Fuck you, man.
Fuck that guy, man.
Oh, it makes me so fucking mad, but also like Osgiliath, city of brotherly love. I don't know. I like that we got to see that side of Boromir. I do.
It was nice. It was nice to see him again.
Yeah. And also see that he wasn't always a dick in search of glory for Gondor.
Yeah, it's because they had daddy issues. You know, their daddy fucked them both up in the head.
Okay, next up. Let's get to some good family stuff.
Okay, good family stuff. So one of my favorite scenes is the beautiful interaction between father and daughter, Arwen and Elrond, telling her about the future, and you can kind of see it happening, where you see her in front of the casket, of Aragorn's casket and stuff like that, and like how he's going to grow old. Hugo Weaving, the way he talks, he talks so like, there's something about the way he talks, I don't know. And he's like, you know that he will die. He's just like spelling out this girl's future. Like, you are going to live a very long time. The reason that you don't want to go to the new coast or whatever is because you want to stay with this person. You are going to watch him die, and you are going to be alone for the rest of your life. It wasn't like some people can be like, oh, it's like mean parent kind of way, but it's like, no, that's a parent looking out for their kid, trying to like put the facts here. And there's even like a moment when like Elrond sits down and he's like, what about me? He's like, do you not love me anymore either? And she just goes into like kid mode at that point. You can tell she just tears up and like rests her head on his chest and just kind of breaks down. It was just super fucking touching. That whole fucking scene, man. It was fantastic. That was one of my favorites.
It's really good, and it's honest in a way that Arwen doesn't want but maybe needs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, she's gonna love who she's gonna love. I think she should be able to make these choices for herself.
Absolutely. But you know how parents get. They get all like emotional and they want you to stay and they don't know how to say it properly. So they have to spell out the danger.
Yeah. Speaking of Aragorn's death fake out. Because I'd read the books prior to seeing the movies, this one never like got me, you know? And to be honest, it almost feels like Legolas and Gimli move on too quickly for it to be believable that he actually fell to his actual death.
Yeah.
This isn't like Fellowship where they're all just like sobbing and stuff. And I know they don't have hobbits with them, but also like Legolas and Gimli were a wreck after Gandalf supposedly fell to his death with the Balrog too.
Yep.
So I don't know. I am curious to hear though, and this is why I included this, what you might remember feeling when you first saw this movie, if anything.
I knew he wasn't dead.
Okay.
Because I knew enough to know what was going to happen in his future at that point that I was like, okay, well, he's not going to die. Like he's going to wash up on shore somewhere or something, which he does. It was still good, you know, and you're right. I think they do kind of drop it pretty quickly. It's like, oh, he fell. Oh, okay. Because the only person who really seems upset is that girl. Eowyn, she's the only one who's upset. Everyone is just like, oh, well, that sucks. They're all hot dogging it is what they're doing. And Eowyn is the only one who's like crying, you know?
Well, you had one more thing you want to talk about, but since you mentioned Eowyn, I'm going to just talk about my Eowyn feelings right now.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have way more Eowyn feelings after Return of the King.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's so fucking great. She's badass, fighting back against Wormtongue, like trying to get her uncle to like come back to where he is. I do feel like, and I know this is from the books too, so it's whatever. But at the same time, it's like, girl, stop fawning over Aragorn. Like, yes, I would be fawning over Aragorn too, right? Earlier in Two Towers, and she like feeds him stew, and he was like,
yep.
Like, girl, it's okay. You don't know how to cook. You are badass. Like, you are cute, and you basically are a Rohirrim, even though they won't give you that title because you're a woman. Eowyn is fucking great. I cannot fucking wait to see more of her in Return of the King. I would say that she's the one thing that almost pushes Return of the King like up to Two Towers level in my favorite movie. I don't love how much they force the fawning over Aragorn thing on her, because outside of that, she's like, they won't let me fight. They won't let me do this. And I understand that she argues, but kind of she does what is requested of her in these situations because she is important. She does need to be there for the people. And if the king, who is, especially in Helm's Deep, when Éomer is still not there yet, like he arrives with Gandalf, and she is the one who is taking care of all of the people. She has a very important job, and her fighting can't be that job at this point. Later, it does become more of a like, oh my God, just let the girl fight, dumbasses.
Yeah.
But I fucking love Eowyn. Like, I know Aragorn is just beyond in love with Arwen, and I get it, but Eowyn, she should have every fucking man in the world fawning over her, and that's that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is that.
He was really nice about the soup, though.
He was very nice, and he knows, he can tell how she feels. He's honest with her. I love that about him. He doesn't lead her on or anything. He's like, nope, I love this person. It is what it is. But my God. And before that with Wormtongue, she's like, fuck you, asshole.
Dude, Wormtongue was so creepy.
Oh,
man.
He was so goddamn gross. Eowyn is probably, almost definitely the MVP of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, I can't give her that yet because she does also some really awesome fucking things in the next movie. But in this movie, she is definitely in the running for MVP, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is all. What is your last ring sight?
More 1980s style nightmare fuel. Practical effects at its best. Don't follow the lights in the burning marshes. Frodo looking into the water and seeing that dead elf, and then all of a sudden its eyes open and he just like drops right into the water, like just face first. And then he sees the like dead people and that ghost thing like coming after him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, dude, I would have watched this as a child and this would have kept me up for the next 5 years. This was just terrifying, dude.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to put that into like a top 5 moment, but I'm glad you brought it up because it was fucking, it's, ugh. And also, why? What? I mean, I know why, but like these marshes, it's crazy. Like the ghosts of these people, elves, etc., are just floating around.
And the thing is that it was done so beautifully, right? Because I don't know how any of our listeners have actually been to a marsh, but marshes are really fucking creepy. Creepy because there is animals and things everywhere. everything is uncertain. You don't know what is, and especially like with like Florida, there's like 10 gators looking at you as you're walking by. You don't notice it, and it's like they're just sitting there staring at you. So I don't know. I love the concept of like marshes. And then this one being like the burning marsh, and it was like you saw these dead bodies, and it was like from a battle from like ages ago. The water just preserved them. That's super creepy.
Weirdly enough, even though I grew up in Connecticut, the house I grew up in, until my parents had a little bit of money and were able to fill it in, which, whatever, we're not going to talk about the problematic aspects of that. Half of our backyard was a swamp. It was mushy. Do you know what skunk cabbage is? Or is that okay? It was like mushy, like skunk cabbage, moss. You could not, my parents owned over an acre of land, but half of it was just swamp. And it was disgusting in good ways and bad ways. It was Connecticut. So it wasn't like, it didn't breed like mosquitoes and stuff as much as like it would in the South. But I don't know. Like if these movies had come out when I was like much younger and still living there, I would have been like, nope, never going near that shit again. Like the skunk cabbage is stinky enough, but
I used to think it was fun running around the swamp. If I would have saw this first, I'd have been like, hell no, I'm never going back out there again. Never again.
The
dude.
lights, don't follow the lights.
Don't follow the lights, because that water always looked weird, and it always looked like there was things in there, and it was super creepy, man.
So, last thoughts on Two Towers. Why is this your favorite? We've kind of mentioned this a few times, but why is this your favorite?
Because I felt like it was more adventurous. It starts off with our three boys hunting. You come across all these different characters, because we get to see the like Rohirrim and stuff like that, which is great. We get to see Gondor, which is like, oh, this is what happened to humans. I loved the concept of like the Ents, they introduced them here. Fantastic. I loved that we got more Saruman. I thought that was awesome. Like, cool, because I want to see what the antagonist is. I want to see like what the motivation is here, and how they showed the underground stuff and, whatever, and the battle with the Ents and stuff like that. So there was a lot of, even though this one was definitely way more action orientated than as opposed to exposition, it's still, the first one we did such a good job in building these characters up that now you actually get to see them in action. We don't have to waste time with all of this like exposition. So this one is just, it's a straight up adventure. It starts off in adventure. They're roaming around the forest. Here comes Gandalf. Now we're going to go exorcise the demon. And now we're running through the fields trying to find, whatever. And then fucking all of a sudden meat's back on the menu again. And then now everyone is fucking fighting. And it's just like one thing after another, one thing after another. And it's like, oh, great. Hey, and with every victory comes this almost like defeat where it's like, oh, awesome. We just freed Theoden. This is great. All right, guys, we're taking off the Helm's Deep, which is like a dead end. We're not really going to survive. So if we can go and just band together and let's just die together, that would be great. You go, the anticipation of the buildup, the war scene, the elves showing up, that they're like, oh shit, the elves are kind of smug and kind of whatever, but they're like, dude, we used to fight alongside each other back in the day. We're here to do it again. It's like fucking the big horn.
Yeah, they have a right to be smug.
I'd look, maybe look, I don't know, dude. I'm definitely more of a dwarf than I am an elf. I'm small. but yeah, I just think everything up into the build up, the way it ended, it was just, and it was so, what it probably is? It's that the pacing of it was so perfect. It was a ride that just kept you going and kept you going. So this one, because I mean, I love the other two. This one kept me buckled up from the start to the fucking finish. And I was like, and as soon as I was done with it, I was ready to watch it again. I was like, dude, I gotta get on that ride again.
Well, yeah, I mean, before we did our Fellowship episode, I had finished watching Fellowship, and then my stepkid was like down in the living room with me, and I was like, I'm just gonna start Two Towers. And I did. We got like halfway through. And then like a week and a half later, I was like, I hadn't finished it yet. So I'm just going to restart. He was like, we were an hour and a half in. And I turned to him and I was like, so? And he was like, yeah, you're right. Let's just watch it all over again. And then I watched the whole thing again over the past few days. But yeah, I think that I talked a bunch earlier about how this is supposed to be, or not supposed to be, this is kind of like, it's the Empire, it's the, if you've seen Hunger Games, it's the Catching Fire, I think is the second book, but it's the OG of all those things. Really, it really is. It's the fucking G, and it does it better because it's not all just dark and scary, and you do get the you get the win at the end, the Helm's
Yeah.
Deep win, as hard as it comes to them. You get that win. And yes, you know that there's more to come. And listen, there is some great fucking shit. There are some great battles that happen
Hmm.
in Return of the King, but no matter what happens, I can't not have this be my favorite of the three movies, because I'll be honest, I think it might be the Ents that tip it for me.
Yeah.
Like, Helm's Deep is a fucking awesome battle, but we do get some great victorious battles in Return of the King. But I can't get over the Ents. I can't get over the Ents
Yeah.
destroying Isengard.
That was
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. The ends were great. There's just so many new things that kind of get introduced here, because they do throw a lot at you in this movie. When it comes to different things, different concepts, they really lay it on thick on this, but they just did it so damn beautifully.
Right. And also Gandalf coming back, I think, is a huge
Hmm.
selling point as well. Because if you hadn't read the books, but even if you had, they do it so well in this movie. So fucking well. The fight at the beginning, oh, is it or isn't it, with Merry and Pippin, and then the actual review. 10 out of 10 wriggling fishes.
Yes, 10 out of 10. I give this one a easy 10 out of 10. This is probably one of my
like
favorite movies
12
ever.
out of 10. Yeah, seriously.
12 out of 10.
12
yeah.
out of 10 wriggling fishes.
I will say this, my only complaint about this movie, and it's kind of a big one, big complaint, there were no trains in this movie. So 0 out of 10 trains. Okay.
There are also no hot dogs.
There's no hot dogs. There's no hot dogs and there's no trains. So I'm going to say 0 out of 10 for those two, but everything else, 10 out of 10 guaranteed.
All right. Any last thoughts before we close out?
No, we're eventually going to have to pay bills at some point. So we can't sit here and talk about this for the next 12 hours like we want to.
We could.
We could easily do that.
Work has to happen. Day jobs have to happen tomorrow. Okay. As we close out the episode, we just want to thank you for joining us for our 14th Media That Made Us episode on The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers Extended Edition. We will be back to conclude our Media That Made Us coverage on the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy with the extended edition of The Return of the King. In the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe, or rate us 5 stars wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, please consider supporting us by backing our Patreon at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.